Alright guys, welcome to my Magelight Pve DPS video. This will be covering anything dungeons and trial content related. So, first things first, I'll quickly go over stats. These are my front bar stats, completely unbuffed. And these are my back bar stats, completely unbuffed. I have all my attributes summed to Magicka. And yep, so that's pretty much stats. So I'll quick go over the gear that I'm using. Front bar, I've got a Maelstrom Inferno Staff sharpened. Back bar, I've got regular crafted Bet 16 Staff precise with the spell damage enchant on it. It does not have to be anything special. However, I've heard from a couple buddies that you can use, so for example, any Maelstrom Staff, right? You can enchant it with the spell damage enchant right here, and you can still keep the passive 189 spell damage. So I've got a lot of extra fire staffs lying around on my characters, so I could probably just throw this one away and test it out for you guys and let you know if that works. But for right now, I've just got regular Bet 16 staff, works just fine. So head and shoulders, I'm using 2 Kina, and on the body I've got 5 scathing. Jewelry, 3 willpower, all arcane with 3 spell damage enchants. So I'll give you guys a couple alternatives, and I'll mention a couple downsides that you may need to kind of deal with. So if you don't have access to scathing, a very good second choice would be Twice-Born Star. That works just fine, and especially in trial situations with a good trial group, so good warhorns. Twice-Born Star is really good DPS. But in my opinion, I think specifically on a Magicka Nightblade, Scathing Mage can out DPS it and outperform. If you have good rotation on Twisting Path, you're good with light weaving, and if you have good crippling grasp rotations, I think that'll help DPS Twice-Born Star. If you're having sustained issues with Kina, so for example, you're just doing rotation and for some reason you're running out of Magicka, a good alternative would be Narayanith. However, one thing I want to say with Narayanith is that you will lose DPS on single target over Kina, but in AoE situations, so any dungeon or trial content where you're going through heavy fights, Narayan does out DPS in AoE situations, so this wouldn't be a bad idea to run in those kind of instances. But however, for most single target scenarios and any other situation for the most part, I always rock Kina. If you have good upkeep on Siphoning Attacks and you have good group support, so good Ele Drain and Siphoning Spam for healers, you really shouldn't be running Magicka in the first place. Now, one thing I want to say with scathing that you may realize here soon enough is that you will have low health. So on my front bar, I'm not even at 17k health. Back bar, I've only got 17.2k health. So a couple ways to solve this is one, having healthy jewelry on you is probably one of the easiest ways to solve it. So, and 2, if you don't have access to scathing, Twice-Born Star will solve your health issue. Also Narayan can solve the health issue. So I would not recommend going to any hard content with this amount of health. So for example, that Sanctum or Maw, even if you're a very experienced player, the amount of damage in those trials will get you killed. So the only content that I could do with this amount of health, for example, is dungeons are fine, and trial wise, A and Hellra, maybe DSA. That would be the only trials that I can pull this off, and even then you have to know what's going on to be able to rock on health. So definitely bring some healthy jewelry on you, just in case. So skill wise, front bar, I've got Inner Light, Funnel Health, Crippling Grasp, Elemental Blockade, Merciless, and Soul Harvest. So one alternative to Funnel Health is if you're going for max DPS, Force Pulse right here can out DPS it. Reason being is if you're unlucky with the crits on Funnel Health, since Force Pulse is considered a 3-way attack, even if only 1 or 2 attacks crit on Force Pulse or all 3, it's going to out DPS Funnel Health if Funnel Health doesn't crit. Plus, if you have a DK applying Engulfing Flames, you will get a passive boost to the flame damage bonus, which will also net you more DPS. However, there's a couple benefits to Funnel Health. One is it does heal you and allies, So any pressure you can relieve off yourself and any other teammates will also relieve the healers. 2, anytime you heal somebody or an ally, you also build ulti, so you can build ulti quicker funnel health. If you want to go a more kind of survivability route, you can swap funnel health out for Swallow Soul, which is the other morph. Basically gives you increased healing received. But I like to play a little more supportive of Magicka Nightblade, so I like to use funnel health. So this is the front bar for most scenarios. This really shouldn't change. The only time I switch stuff out is if it's a really short boss fight, so nothing that even lasts like a minute. I'll swap out Crippling Grasp on the back bar for Impale, so these will swap around, so I'll get extra crit. So Impale would be where Crippling is, and Crippling would be where Impale is. But for the most part, you can keep this just the way it is, and you'll be fine. And in very long fights, so Sanctum or Maw, I would just keep this setup. Alright, back bar, I got Inner Light again, Twisting Path, Impale, Siphoning Attacks, Rearming Trap, and Shooting Star. So the reason we don't have Shooting Star on the front bar, and the reason we have Soul Harvest on the front bar is 1, Soul Harvest will always give you more DPS because of 3% crit over the 800 max magic you get. So now if you're in an AoE situation, swap out Rearming Trap for Sap Essence. And basically you would just put down the Blockade, Twisting Path, and you just spam Sap Essence. Complete single target, you would just simply swap back and put Rearming Trap. So one thing with Rearming Trap, however, is it is a close range ability. So if you're playing a Magicka Nightblade, one of the reasons you might be playing it is because you need to be ranged. So for example, if you're fighting the Manacora in Sanctum and you're on Shard Group, unless you have good rotation and good movement to be able to go in and back up and place a Rearming Trap, that's one way you could be able to use it. But if you're having trouble with it or you just want to risk it, you could use the other morph Rearming Trap, which is called Lightweight Speed Trap. And basically what it does is it allows you to throw it from distance, and you can still get the minor force. You just lose the ability for the trap to rearm again, but it's still better than nothing. Otherwise, if you don't have access to this, you can use the Shades. They're not absolutely like great DPS, they're not bad. However, there's something, they last for 20.7 seconds, so they're not bad, and it also has the minor maim ability. So it reduces any damage done by 50%. So, you know, Manacora, it's really beneficial to tank. You know, your tank will thank you if they're not using Rogue Slash, which they should be. But, and they're pretty cool looking, so. One thing I forgot to mention is if you're using Scathing, you'll definitely want to go Thief on the Mundus Stone. And if you're using the Twice Warden route, you want to go Thief and Shadow combo. So, again, these are the stats completely unbuffed. I will show you what your stats look like in a basically, you know, fully buffed by yourself, but no SBC, what it'll look like. And also show you kind of how the rotation works. And one last look, these are the skills. So remember, single target, you can either use Shades or either Rearming Trap or Lightweight Beast Trap. This depends on how good you are and what you feel is comfortable for you. And then remember, AoE, just swap it out for Sap Essence. Make sure you have all the passives for your class, all the passives from the Destro. Dual wield, I don't recommend going dual wield. You can, but I prefer the double Destro since you can keep Keenan proc. But if you decide to go dual wield, make sure you have Twin Blade and Blunt passive. Everything for light armor. Make sure you have, you don't need absolutely everything in here, but most of these are beneficial to have on your Mage's Guild. I do rock 511, so make sure you have this, and probably should have it on command. That's actually not bad to have, so I should probably put some more skill points in there. Your passive, I am a Breton. Probably the best race to go is Dark Elf or High Elf. Dark Elf if you're using all fire abilities, so for example, Elemental Blockade, Shooting Star on your back bar, and just weaving. Dark Elf giving you probably the best absolute single target damage. High Elf would be the second best choice because you're not too far behind and you get that extra regen, which isn't bad. So Brenton's not bad either, but out of the 3 best choices, I probably picked the worst one. But I made this guy a long time ago. But even with the Brenton, I'm pulling fine DPS. So as long as you didn't choose a race at stamina base, you'll be okay. And even then, you'll be fine. But if you really want to be mid max, the 3 best choices would be, in order, would definitely be Dark Elf, High Elf, and then Brenton. Make sure your alchemy's maxed out. This is very important for DPS, as I don't use entropy, which I think is just a waste. So potions are always the way to go. So make sure you have this maxed out, and that's pretty much all the passes, skills you'll want. So I'll go over champion points real quick. Blue tree is probably the most important one, so I'll go over that one first. Apprentice, I've got 27 Elfborn, maxed out onto expert, and then 40 Thaumaturge. So that's what I have for the blue tree. Green tree, it's gonna be pretty identical to a lot of PvE builds out there. I've got 9-2 Magician. You can max it out, it's up to you. The reason I didn't max out is because I do a lot of farming on my characters, and I like this when I farm for alchemy mats. I like to have the Master Gatherer passive, so I have 75 into recovery. But so it's not really a big deal. Once you have this at a certain amount, that extra bit of reduced cost doesn't really make a huge difference. So 75 Arcanist and 9-2 Magician. As long as you have good rotation, again, on static attacks, and if you have group support, you shouldn't run on Magicka, even if you're proccing key 24/7. Red tree, this is just kind of personal preference. This isn't the best setup or anything out there. I just have this set up the way I like to deal with content. The way I have it set up is so I don't have to constantly switch over CP. So if I'm doing Sanctum, I don't have to swap out anything to Hardy. If I'm doing Mod, I don't have to swap out anything to Elf Defender. So I've got a 73-73 split in between these two. 1 thick skin just to kind of reduce dot damage. It's better than nothing, and then just 20 quick recovery so I can get better heals from the healer and also for my own funnel health. Again, this is personal preference, but this is my CP setup. So that's pretty much it for the gear, stats, and the skills, the CP. So I'll quickly do another video on rotation and kind of what to do, what not to do, and stuff like that. So hope you guys enjoy. Alright guys, so now as promised, I'll show you kind of the AoE rotation and what to do when you're going through trash pulls. So me and my group here, we're going through Spindle Clutch, and as we work our way to the Blood Spawn, there'll be a couple of AoE packs in between, and that's kind of provide me the perfect opportunity to show you guys what to do. Okay, so as we said before, when it's AoE situations, you want to swap out whatever skill you have here that you're using for single target. So whether it be the trap or the shades, you swap that out for Sap Essence. As we kind of wait for the dungeon to load in, always remember to keep slapping attacks up at all times. And currently there's a glitch with PS4 where when you load in you can't swap just yet. There we go. So always keep Merciless up at all times and siphoning. So we're just going to quickly kill this ad real quick as we move our way to the trash pools. So what I typically like to do is I'll try to cripple the beefiest ad in the group. So the warrior, for example, drop the blockade twisting, and you basically just get in the middle of the group and spam Sap Essence. And that's pretty much all there is to it. If there's one ad alive like this, you can just simply execute him. Again, always keep sappy attacks up at all times, and the Merciless Assault. So, same thing, we're going to try to see if we can find the beefy ads in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be the beefy ad, just pick a target, Cripple, Blockade, Twisting Path, and just spam the Sap Essence. Now, since these enemies in here are pretty squishy, you don't necessarily need to reapply Ele Blockade Twisting Path. Now, if you're doing, again, Sanctum or Maw, where the ads basically have like 2 million health per ad, you may need to reapply Ele Blockade Twisting before doing Sap Essence again. But again, just because this is just Spindle Clutch, it's pretty simple. So that was pretty much Aoe rotation. Very simple, as you can see, even with the big group like this, completely solo, as my buddy over there was kind of watching. Just take out, you know, big groups pretty quickly. So again, always remember to recast Merciless and Siphoning Attacks, and basically you just find a target, Cripple, Blockade, Twisting, and you just spam Sap Essence. Remember, if it's a squishy ad pull, you don't really need to reapply Twisting or Blockade. You can just keep spamming Sap Essence and then just impale if there's just one or two ads left alive that are low health. Again though, if it's a you know, a trial where the ads basically have, you know, millions of health, you probably will need to reapply these 2 dots as you go in between Sap Essence, and just make sure you keep Sap Attacks up once you need resources, and Merciless once the 20-second runs out. But that's pretty much the Aoe rotation, guys, so very easy and simple. So let's finally move on to the Blood Spawn. So again, I'll try to show you what your fully buffed stats look like and allow you to see what you're working with. So those are your stats fully buffed. So 4.2 K is what you're going to be at once you're fully buffed. Again, I was on my Torx Pack staff. So remember, if you were to swap over to your Maelstrom staff, you would have about 4.4k spell damage. And that's just completely your buffs only, no SPC and no minor sorcery. So in a trial scenario, you could be looking at around anywhere between, you know, 4.8k to 5k. So alright guys, and last but not least, I'll kind of show you a slower version of the DPS parts for you guys so you can really see what's going on. I won't do any fancy animation cancels or anything like that, so you guys can see what's going on. And I'll kind of go a little bit slower so you can really see. So as always keep Merciless up at all times and Siphoning Attacks. So let my tank here know that we're ready to go. So again, keep this up at all times. So when we start, pop a potion, Magelight into a fully charged type attack, Cripple, light attack Blockade, light attack Twisting, Rearming Trap, drop your Meteor, and then shoot the Merciless. Recast it, then light attack Funnel, then rinse and repeat. Light attack Cripple, light attack Blockade, don't shoot the Merciless yet, reapply your back bar dot, so Twisting and Trap, shoot the Merciless and recast it. Light attack Funnel, light attack Cripple, Blockade, reapply your dots, go in the Merciless, shoot, and rinse repeat. So as these lining up towards 25%, start getting your dots ready to go. And as it comes at 25% mark, get ready to execute. And you just light attack impale to the win. On short ads like this, you really don't need to reapply dots because it's a waste of time. Now, if you're in a fight that's like, say, Sanctum or, you know, Mob, where the boss fights are basically, when it says 25%, it basically means that's still 20 million health. You can then, you know, reapply dots, so Blockade and Twisting Path, and then continue to execute. But for this scenario in the Blood Spawn, since the Blood Spawn's pretty squishy, you can just light attack impale for the win. So that's pretty much the rotation in slow motion, or the slowest I can go. Again, I'll leave kind of a written guide in the description below if you guys want to see it a little bit more in depth, so you can see some text for it. I'll also link the actual full speed Blood Spawn test video as well, just so you guys can see what it looks like in full speed with all the cancels and everything. So that's pretty much it for the Nightblade build video. I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions or anything like that, please leave a comment down below. And if you guys want to see other classes, so Stam DK, Magic DK, Templar, Sork, you name it, let me know as well, and I can do videos over those. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoy.